Good afternoon and greetings from the campus of East Tennessee State University. I thank you for taking the time to join us for the virtual town hall conversation that will ensue over the course of the next hour, and for providing your questions, many in advance of the meeting and many I see coming in now as we begin the town hall. I want to start by setting the stage a little bit for this town hall. Many of you have received copies of PowerPoint presentations and videos that we've prepared outlining for the institution our budget landscape as we prepare for the start of the fall 2020 semester here across our campus. And within those slides that I shared with the institution, I provided a picture of the challenges and opportunities facing institutions all across the country. And I don't know about you, but I am thankful to be here at East Tennessee State University as part of an institution that has very judiciously developed a plan to approach the fall, has a history of financial management that has positioned the university to weather the storm that's in front of us, but also to be part of an institution that has, for its history, been focused on improving the quality of lives for the people of our region. And as we look at the issues that are in front of us for the fall, these are issues that are manageable. Our budget issues are manageable. As I've outlined to the campus in the presentation, we're looking at about a 4.3% budget adjustment for the academic units, a 5.3% budget adjustment for our administrative units. But if we all roll up our sleeves together and go about the mission of this institution, I'm confident that by this time next year, we will have emerged a stronger university, no matter what COVID can throw at us. I want to just take a couple of seconds to paint a picture of a timeline from March. As we're all aware, in the middle of March, we made the pivot to online instruction. As we moved through the months of March, April, and into May, our faculty and our staff did an outstanding job in bringing that semester to a close in a manner that allowed our students to continue to realize their educational dreams, to not waver on our teaching, research, and service missions, but to keep the quality of this university front and center. And as we look at budget issues, or any issue that's in front of us, be it a budget issue, a health and safety issue, it doesn't matter what the issue may be, it's our ability to keep the academic quality of this institution front and center that is our unwavering commitment. So as we pushed through commencement and then moved into the summer, we began to reopen aspects of the campus, first being our research laboratories, so that our research faculty could get back into those spaces where they conduct their research and live out their mission and get that portion of the campus moving again. As we moved into the late period of May, as found in the PowerPoint presentation, I think it's slide 16, we received correspondence from the Tennessee Higher Education Commission outlining a directive from Governor Lee to remove 12% from our university budget by July 1. Now, many people have asked me over the course of the summer, why have we gone down a path of examining budgets? Why are we looking at staffing? And why is the campus going through this process if there's so much uncertainty about the fall? Some have said, well, Dr. Noland, what happened that we were down a path of a 12% reduction from the state, and then on May 26th, the governor reversed course? Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wonderful position to find ourselves in. There are a few states in the union in which higher education has been held harmless as a result of the budget uncertainty from COVID. The impact on that for our university was an $8 million gain, because that's the size of the reduction that we would have taken. And I'm deeply appreciative of the leadership of Governor Lee and his staff in this area, because they recognize the importance of institutions such as ours and institutions across the state. Given the economic uncertainty facing our country, the best thing that someone can do is to invest in their future, to invest in their education. So I know there's a lot of uncertainty about the fall and opening in residence halls. I read with great amusement articles about students taking a gap year, taking a year off and seeing what next year looks like. We are going to offer courses this fall, on ground, online, hybrid. And for students and parents who are watching this video, I want to assure you we're doing everything we can to prepare for the opening of the fall in a way that protects the health and safety of our students, faculty, and staff. But to take a year off, to defer or to delay a dream is not something that I would advise anyone to do. Enroll, take your courses, and continue to make progress towards the degree. And our faculty and our staff are here to support you along that journey. But the purpose of this town hall is to talk about the budget situations facing the campus. There have been a lot of questions related to budget, and I want to jump in and start to answer many of those questions. I've got a question here right out of the gates from Dr. Katie Baker, one of our outstanding faculty in the College of Public Health. Dr. Baker's question is, after reviewing the budget update presentation, I was unclear as to whether faculty T&P salary enhancements have been removed from the budget or if they are retained. Dr. Baker, I apologize if there was confusion in the presentation, but those salary enhancements that are affiliated with tenure and promotion are 100% included in the budget for the fall. The reason that they are referenced is that historically, the financial costs associated with those salary enhancements are borne by central administration. They are not distributed to the colleges. So as we look at sunk costs moving into the start of the academic year, that $325,000 to cover those commitments to our faculty and staff are investments that will be made and that will accrue to our faculty and staff as we transition into the fall. So the direct answer to your question, for those faculty who have moved through the tenure promotion process, they will see those salary adjustments, and they are part of the base budget, not only this year, but in years moving forward. Have a question from Josh Reed, faculty member in our Literature and Languages department, around reserves. The question around reserves is, what are our levels of institutional reserves? What's essential for financial stability? Are reserves low, healthy? Dr. Reed, the question around reserves, and there's been a little bit of confusion here because we had an interview with an outstanding reporter from WJHL, and that reporter referenced our reserves at a level, I don't know where he pulled it from, but our reserves at the present moment stand right at $18 million. 10 million of those reserves are unrestricted. The other 8 million of those reserves are positioned in restricted accounts for housing, for our food service, for deferred maintenance, well, for debt service projects. So 8 million of those reserves are in restricted accounts. 10 million of those reserves are available in the event of very, very difficult waters. I am not of the opinion that the budget situation that we are approaching entails tapping reserves. Reserves are something that you use for a worst case scenario. In fact, for each of the past couple of years, we have been making additional investments in reserves. Our board has been very direct in its language to the university that we need to build reserves. So we've been doing so for the past several years, but our reserves presently stand right at $10 million. I think our reserves are healthy, but I would like to grow our reserves even more. In an ideal case, our reserves from an unrestricted perspective would be double of where they are. So I know many of the questions that I receive from individuals say, well, if we have 10 million in reserves, why don't we just dip into that bank account to cover this issue? I'd like to, and I cannot stress strongly enough, I feel that we can manage our way through the situation that's in front of us. If the landscape turns significantly, reserves are there to cover a worst case scenario, but we are nowhere near, as an institution, a situation that would cause us to have to drop into reserves. They're there if we have a significant crisis. We will continue to do all that we can to grow reserves. And as I outlined in the presentation, one of the things I'd like to do is to set the budget. This is flat, this is down 500. If we come in within this range, to take that revenue and put it in a contingency fund in anticipation of unknowns that may emerge throughout the fall. Got a question that has come in from Carla Seibolt, who works in our Honors College, that has asked what we can do to help reach out to students and let them know about our commitment not only to their academic success presently and into the fall. I want to thank you for that question. And Carla, as you know, throughout the spring, we had a campaign in which university faculty and staff reached out to students, and I think we touched the majority of every single student directly by phone. We've had email campaigns and letter writing campaigns, and would welcome any support or assistance folks would like to provide as we move through information about our ability to connect with students and really ensure that our student life enrollment is positioning the institution so that all of us can reach out to students who are undecided about the fall and reassure them that we are here. We will continue to do all that we can to meet their academic needs as we're preparing for the fall. And I know that I'm joined today, and I want to thank our Chief Academic Officer, Wilcie Bishop, for joining us on this town hall, as well as our Chief Financial Officer, Dr. B.J. King, for joining us on the town hall as well. And I think Dr. King has her hand raised for a point that she would like to make in response to Carla Leibolt's question. So Dr. King, I'll turn it to you.
So this is BJ, and I had talked a bit with Sam Mayhew and Joe Sherlin about activities. And as Dr. Noland mentioned, we had the campaign in the spring where we were calling all bucks. And we had those lists divided up of all our enrolled students, and we placed calls to every enrolled student for spring semester. And now what we're doing is providing lists of non-enrolled students, students who are here in the spring who should come back in the fall, but are not yet enrolled. And so for those students, we develop lists, and those go out to the colleges. And the colleges are taking those lists and drilling down in department levels and providing those lists for phone calls or emails to be made to check the status of the students' enrollment. And then they're trying to direct those students to the right organizations on campus to provide services to get those students enrolled for fall. And if there's a specific need for information, admissions will provide the information to departments that need it. But there are ongoing campaigns, postcards, emails, phone calls taking place this summer to get students enrolled.
And if any members of the university community would like to assist with those efforts, please reach out to Dr. Joe Sherlin and his staff in Student Life and Enrollment, and I know they would welcome your participation. As we're looking through questions that are continuing to come in, we have a question here from Dr. Martha Kopp, a faculty member in our sociology department, who has asked a question related to the endowment and the work of institutional advancement to bring resources to bear to help support the teaching, research, and service missions of the university. And the question states, could you explain why standard fundraising for ETSU cannot be used to help with our current budget difficulties? So Dr. Kopp, as we look at the resources that are made available through private gifts and philanthropic support for the university, I want to thank the members of the university community, and I want to thank individuals from across the nation for the support that they've provided to date for our Bucks Help Bucks campaign. As many will recall, as we moved into the month of April, we launched a campaign in which we were raising resources to help students and others with emergent financial needs resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. We've had significant support for that. In fact, I think total dollars raised are north of $100,000 to date. And that was an effort to raise funds to directly help our students. Much of the work that occurs from a philanthropic perspective is geared towards scholarships and endowed chairs. In fact, I heard from Ms. Pam Ritter yesterday that she anticipates that we will come very close, if not surpass, the all-time single highest year we've had in terms of philanthropic support for the university. And a lot of that support goes to scholarships, to endowed chairs, to academic research, et cetera. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, we announced the creation of the Strong Brain Institute on campus, a $1 million gift from Ballot Health that will support research and direct interventions into the community around adverse childhood experiences. We have the Center for Rural Health Research, also supported by Ballot. But as I look across the scholarships that are provided to students at this institution, scholarships in the arts, scholarships in the sciences, scholarships in the College of Medicine, much of that support comes from funds raised by institutional advancement. And many of those gifts are directed towards special purposes. So I cannot take a gift that someone gave to support music scholarships and redirect that to support the salaries of faculty in the music department. But our staff in institutional advancement are directly involved in efforts to raise funds to support the basic operations of the university. And if individuals are interested in giving to the unrestricted fund, please contact Pam Ritter in institutional advancement, and she'd be happy to have a conversation with you about things that you can do to help support the operations of the institution. Had a question that came in from a staff member around something in the PowerPoint that's referred to as OPEB, and what the impact is of OPEB on the budget. Each year, there are a number of elements that are contained within the budget that are, in some respects, directed upon the institution to support, but are not 100% funded by the state. So OPEB refers to a broad range of benefits from a retirement perspective in which we have commitments to support, but they are not fully funded by the state. Our portion of that liability this year is right at $512,000. So we, in order to meet our state commitments as part of the OPEB effort, we'll need to generate those funding aspects to support our OPEB liabilities. I've had a question that has come in around athletics from Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, thank you for your question. It says, if college athletics are not played, how much of the athletics budget will be subsidized by the academic budget? Our athletic budget operates as an auxiliary unit. The total budget for athletics is somewhere around $16 million, and about a third of that goes to directly support scholarships for student athletes. The landscape for college athletics this fall is extremely dynamic, and I anticipate that if institutions in many of the major Power 5 conferences are not playing sports, that will have a direct impact on us. As we look at the general fund support for the athletic department, for those of you who've been part of the institutional community for a long time, you're familiar with the commitments that I've made to hold steady institutional support for athletics from the general fund. In fact, there's about $750,000 under old Board of Regents policy that we could be utilizing to support the athletic department. I committed a number of years ago not to go in that direction, and yesterday to the Faculty Senate, I affirmed that commitment and will continue to affirm here. So if situations in athletics become complicated, Scott Carter, athletic director, and our staff in that area will make the adjustments that they need to make to ensure that the athletic department remains viable. have had a number of questions that have come in from staff around issues pertaining to adjunct faculty. And I want to set the stage a little bit for this, and then we'll turn to our Chief Academic Officer to provide a little bit of additional context around adjunct faculty and the questions around course load for the institution going into the fall. But I want to once again reference the communication that we received from the governor's office in late May. Upon receipt of that communication, we formed a strategic operations work group chaired by Mr. Jeremy Ross and Dr. Mike Hoff, a shared governance committee comprised of faculty and staff. And we tasked that group with exploring options that the university could pursue in the event of the budget recommendation and the effectiveness of that budget recommendation that the governor had placed in front of the institution. So that directive, coupled with projected enrollment declines, put us in a position of exploring a broad range of scenarios related to budgets. And throughout the month of June, many colleges began a similar series of internal conversations around how they would respond in the event of significant reductions on the state side and a loss of student enrollment. As with anything in a COVID environment in which all of us are working through Zoom, there were a fair amount of rumors that moved across the campus, one of which was that the president's office said we will not hire adjuncts. As I've said on a number of occasions, that rumor was a patent mistruth. At no point did my office say we will not hire adjuncts. What we requested is that colleges review their budgets, review staffing loads, and make college-level decisions that allow the colleges, based upon their unique mix of teaching, research, and service, grants, credit hour production, et cetera, to meet the budget directive that had been provided by the governor. Some colleges took different approaches than others, but now as we have moved towards the direction of a 4.3% reduction for the colleges, a 5% reduction for central administration, the colleges now are coming back to the question of staffing loads. And I know for certainty that many colleges that had taken a pretty firm position are now revisiting that position. And I'd like to turn to Dr. Bishop, the university's Chief Academic Officer, to provide some additional clarity around the issue of course loads, course distribution, and adjuncts in light of the 4.3% path that the colleges are pursuing. So Dr. Bishop, I will turn to you.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm pleased to be able to talk about this with you. We certainly value our adjuncts, and we value the critical information, the critical experiences, their dedication to our students. And so I want to start by saying we're looking at everything we can to assure that we have a comprehensive staffing plan in each department, in each college, that addresses the best way to deliver our curriculum to our students. That includes load for faculty, full-time faculty, as well as for the role that adjuncts will play. The good news that we received in June, that the budget from the state was not going to be reduced to 12% that we anticipated, means that the cut that the departments and colleges are taking, along with the rest of the university, has been decreased, as Dr. Noland has explained. This week, beginning last week and this week, Dr. Noland has been having discussions with department chairs, with deans, with others, and we've been getting additional information from the Strategic Options Committee. You've now heard that we have a new percentage figure that we're looking at for the reductions that will occur within the academic units, less than what is occurring in the administrative units. So this week, the colleges and the departments are receiving a translation of what the percentage reduction actually means in dollar amounts for each of their units. Our colleges are complex. It takes time to take that information and then translate it to our course schedule. At the same time that we're looking at what we can offer, we're also looking at ways we're going to offer those courses this fall to our students when they come back on August the 24th for the first day of classes. So colleges, departments are developing staffing plans. They are looking at delivery modes, and they now have budget figures that are much firmer than what they were in June, and they are now fleshing out those plans. There will be adjuncts hired. We've had a plan for adjuncts hired when we were at our most concern about budget cuts. The deans have been working with me to say this is a critical area that we have no one else to cover. This is an area where we've had somebody always cover who's an adjunct. And so we've never neglected you. I want you to know that. But we are at a point now where we can fill out those staffing plans. The HR portal for hiring will be open within the next few days. So if you've not gotten a contract, it doesn't mean that you won't. It means that at this point, we have not processed the paperwork because of the fluid conditions that we were planning up to this point. But I believe that you'll see within the next few weeks that plans are going to come into shape, and your department chair will be talking with you about your role in the instructional program in the fall.
Dr. Bishop, thank you for that additional context around the manner in which we are approaching the start of the fall semester as it relates to our tenure track faculty and staff, as well as other faculty and staff who comprise the heart of the institution. The institution can only be as strong as the quality of its faculty, and I want to echo Dr. Bishop's words of thanks and appreciation to all of the faculty for the work that you do to ensure that we're able to protect, promote, foster, and grow our teaching, research, and service missions. I know that these are unsettling and uncertain times for all of you, but as I've said on a number of occasions over the course of the past couple of months, our goal is to protect the jobs of the individuals who call East Tennessee State University home. And every day when I pick up the Chronicle, I see an article about an institution who, because of budget challenges, are moving in a different direction. Today I read about an institution in Ohio that has terminated the employment contracts for a quarter of its faculty. And as I look at the situation that is in front of us currently and the situation that's in front of us for this fall, we're in a very different position at this institution, and we're there because of the long-standing commitment that we've made to putting people first. And I know that the past month has been unsettling. It's been unsettling for all of us. But I hope, as you heard from Dr. Bishop's comments, as well as from mine, that we are revisiting some of the conversations in June. They were not firm decisions, they were conversations. And that we will not only bring adjuncts into the fold for the fall, but unlike many institutions across the country, we are going into the fall from my perspective, a position of strength rather than a reactive position of weakness. I had a question that came in related to scholarships, and it's from an anonymous individual, and I want to, if I said something that was incorrect, I want to ensure that I state this clearly. The question was, if there are not sports, what will happen with scholarships? At no point did I say we would not be playing college sports this year. And if there are adjustments to the competitive landscape of NCAA sports, we will continue to honor the scholarships of our student athletes, just as we will honor the scholarships of all of our students across the campus. If we're unable to have some of the public performances for students in theater or dance or music or the marching band, this institution is not going to back away from the commitments that we made to our students. Our students depend upon those scholarships to have the opportunity to attend this institution. So we are not going to, under no circumstance, will we back away from the scholarship commitments that we've made to our students. Be they honor students, Roan scholars, students who are on our men's and women's tennis program, or students across the institution. So to whoever it was that posed that question, I apologize if there was any confusion, and I hope that we are able to be in a position in which we as an institution and institutions all across the country are able to enjoy those aspects that really bring warmth, depth, breadth, as well as vitality to our campus in the fall and in the spring and throughout the academic year. Have had a question that has come in from Dr. Tim McDowell, Professor Emeritus in the Department of Biology. Dr. McDowell, I thought about you the other day when I put on an Orioles cap. I don't know about you, but I miss baseball. But the only positive of the situation that we find ourselves in is that the Orioles still have a chance to go to the World Series. And it's the first time in the month of July in a long time that they've had that opportunity. But all kidding aside, your question is around the academic infrastructure of the institution with retirements of faculty and uncertainty around the ability to fill positions moving into the future. What will we do to ensure that we protect the quality of our academic programs both now as well as in the future? And as I have said on a couple of occasions, the strength of our academic programs is priority number one. I recognize that we have some budget uncertainty, but I do not feel a 4.3% reduction will permanently impact the ability of our institution to meet its teaching, research, and service mission. And I'm extremely excited as we move towards the fall to finally get started on a visioning and strategic planning process that, if it were not for COVID, we would be well into. Many of you participated in the work of the Committee for 125, a group that brought together thousands of people from across the region to engage in conversations about the future of this institution. Were it not for COVID, we would have begun that process again. We would have celebrated the accomplishments of our university during the last decade. We would examine the changes in the landscape that had occurred, and then commit ourselves to a new set of goals and objectives that we want to achieve by the end of this decade. And I feel, given everything that COVID has placed upon us, it is imperative that we as a university come together to have conversations about our hopes, dreams, and aspirations for the institution, near term and long term. Ladies and gentlemen, the position we find ourselves in because of COVID is temporary. This will pass, but our ability collectively to affirm our commitment to academic excellence, to teaching, to research, to service, and to engage in conversations about where do we want to be 2, 5, and 10 years down the road is what's going to allow us as an institution to emerge from this stronger than we were going in. So, Dr. McDowell, I deeply respect and appreciate your concern and sense of angst around the situation we find ourselves in. But I give you my commitment that this fall, we as a campus will collectively engage in conversation, strategic planning, and visioning that will allow us to near term and long term continue to grow and invest in those programs that have been points of excellence and will continue to be points of excellence for this institution. I've had a number of questions that have come in around the approach that administration is taking to the budget. And I've had a number of individuals who've said, I don't understand why you're not asking senior administration to take pay cuts and why you're not moving a little bit more aggressively to implement some of the things that you're seeing at other institutions as it relates to loss in pay, and why we're not moving forward with furloughs. I do not feel that a 4.3% reduction rises to the level that we as a campus need to implement a furlough policy, or that we as a campus need to take action to reduce the pay of administrators. Because if you look at that, what we're doing is essentially pitting one side of the campus against the other. And I don't know what the family situation of one of our chairs may be, or what of our deans may be. I do know that a position that we are taking clearly is that administration will take a 5.3% reduction. The colleges will take a 4.3% reduction. So from a cost perspective, central administration in every single unit from my office on down the line will reduce our budgets by 5.3%. And I give you my commitment that if the headwinds become stronger than they are presently, the first person on this campus who will take a reduction in pay is myself. And I will take, from a percentage perspective, a larger cut than any other person on this campus. And then we'll begin to implement that policy across the campus. But my goal is for our grounds and custodians and for individuals who behind the scenes make this campus run, I don't want to move in that direction. And my hope is that we can put in place a policy that holds they and their families harmless. But we're not in a position to implement that at this time. I pray that we never are. But if we are, I give you my word that the first person who will take a pay cut is myself, and I will take more than any other person on this campus. Question about, has there been no contingency budget plan for another lockdown? We do have reserves that are in place. And as I referenced, this is enrollment at the prior level for the fall. We have budgeted to be down 500. So if we come in at 300 or 200 or 100, that revenue differential will go into a contingency fund that will supplement our reserves in the event that we see changes in the landscape of COVID as we move through the fall. I had a question here around, we've recently seen a restructuring that's led to creation of College of Graduate and Continuing Studies. What other types of restructuring might occur, and how might that pandemic impact the planning? Dr. Holmes, thank you for your question. As we look back at meetings of the Board of Trustees over the course of the past year, in the spring of 2019, we talked at length with the campus about work that we were doing to ensure that our institutional structure was properly positioned to allow the university to meet its strategic planning objectives. As we moved through and restructured the operations of the provost office under the leadership of Dr. Bishop, we began to see, rather than dual reporting as we had had in the past with the lead for health sciences unit and what was perceived as the lead for the academic unit, now an integration of operations within the provost office. And this merger of continuing studies and the graduate school is something that has been part of that planning operation. As we work through the strategic visioning process that I referenced prior in the fall, I think those conversations around organization, around alignment, around structure will be natural elements that unfold as that strategic visioning process begins to emerge. But the work to bring together continuing studies and graduate school is not something that is a COVID-related outcome. That is something that has been part of a long-standing, more than a year-long process that Dr. Bishop has led as she is looking at the academic alignment and operations of the institution. I've got a question here from an anonymous attendee. Will there be more early retirement opportunities, perhaps more than the initial 75 that has been positioned? So the university has put in place an early retirement incentive program for staff. That program is open. You have until August the 14th to enroll, and then we will open a similar retirement incentive program for faculty on August the 15th. I do anticipate that if numbers move over the 75 from a demand perspective, that we will take those on a case-by-case basis. And I anticipate that we will make this opportunity available to staff across the institution. I do not anticipate at this juncture that we will go deeper in terms of years of service or to provide similar benefits for individuals who've maybe been at the campus for 1 or 2 years the way we did back in 2008. In many respects, this is our way of being able to convey our thanks and appreciation to staff who have spent the bulk of their careers here at the university and are looking at this as maybe a time for them to transition into the next phase and to spend a little bit more time with family. So that program remains open through the 14th for staff, and then we'll open the window for faculty on the 15th of August. Have had another question that has come in around OPEB. Given the fact that my prior response may not have grabbed the technical aspects of OPEB, Dr. King, I'll turn to you to see if you can do a little bit to clean up the manner in which I attempted to describe OPEB and the $512,000 liability that the university is incorporating into our budget planning for the fall. So I'll turn to our Chief Financial Officer, Dr. BJ King.
Yes, this is BJ again. I'm not able to turn my video on, so you're just gonna see my name and hear my voice. The OPEB liability was implemented in the financial statements about 2 years ago. And so we're starting into our 3rd year with this program. And in the past, OPEB was 100% funded at the state level, and it never appeared in the financial books of the university. It was all just done at the state level. But we were required by our Governmental Accounting Standards Board to record the OPEB in the books. And the state could have decided just to record that on their level, but instead they pushed it down to all the different state agencies to record in their books. And what we have found is that we get a bill for OPEB and we get an appropriation for OPEB. And right now our appropriation for OPEB is $512,000 less than the bill that we get for OPEB. So to make up that difference between the billing and the appropriation, we needed to include in the university budget support for that payment. Otherwise, we don't have funds to go to pay that difference. I know it's real technical accounting type information. What we have found through this process, though, is that the state is funding our benefits about 80%, not 100%. So whenever there's an employer increase in cost for employee benefits, then we have to come up with a 20% difference in our budgets. I hope that explains the OPEB for you.
Dr. King, thank you for that additional color around that element of our budget and strategy approach, our strategic budget approach for the fall. Have had a question that has come in from Dennis Prater pertaining to adjuncts and once again, the approach that we will utilize for our courses and the distribution of courses for the fall. Dr. Prater, I thank you for your advocacy on behalf of employees across the institution. And I want to stress that adjunct decisions are not made at the president's office. Decisions around course distribution, around load, and around course offerings for the fall are decisions that are made by chairs and by deans. So as Dr. Bishop referenced prior, our level in terms of budgeting for the fall is different than it was at the beginning of June. And chairs and deans are now working with their respective faculty and their respective colleges to finalize course delivery strategies for the fall. And we need to have that work wrapped up quickly because our students are already beginning to seek questions about classes that will be online, hybrid, on ground. So to our deans across the campus, I thank you for the work that you're doing in conjunction with all of our faculty to finalize those course delivery structures so that we can begin to make that transition to the fall and put a lot of these longstanding questions to rest. As we look to the fall, I have a question from Dr. Karen Kornweibel, Associate Dean in the Honors College, that really kind of sets to what is the bulk of a lot of questions that have come in around the position of the campus for the fall and the manner in which we are preparing to welcome our students, faculty, and staff back to campus. The question is as follows. Obviously, budgets will be greatly impacted in the event that we transition to online delivery, particularly before August 24th. What data will the university be using to determine the phases that we will find ourselves in? The report from Dr. Linville's work group suggested that moving between phases might not be linear. Can you share how and when decisions will be made? For example, University School is using the average number of daily cases in Washington County over the past 14 days. Dr. Kornweibel, I want to thank you for the work that you do in the Honors College, and I want to thank all of our faculty in the Honors College for the work that they are doing this summer to work with our students, but also to help provide guidance and reassurance to our international students who truly are facing what I just can continue to struggle with in terms of very strong headwinds coming out of certain sectors of our nation's government around international students in American system of higher education. Our international students bring rich diversity, vibrancy, and a dynamic presence to our campus. A number of years ago, I had the distinct honor to speak with a group of more than 50 alum of the university who comprise our Beijing alumni chapter. And to all of our international students, please know how important you are to our university. And please know that Dr. Kornweibel and everyone in the Honors College are here to assist you as you continue to have questions about conditions at East Tennessee State University for the fall. And one of those questions will be, how do we transition from phase 2 to phase 3? And Dr. Kornweibel, we're kind of in between phase 2 and phase 3 presently. Our research faculty are back in their labs. Many of our student athletes are on ground preparing and training for the fall semester. And we are continuing to prepare for the return of our students to the residence halls and to our classes in the fall. I am greatly concerned by the increasing number of cases that I see across our region. And I cannot strongly urge enough everyone to please wear your masks on campus and in the community. If you're in the grocery store, if you're stopping for gas, or if you're on campus, this is a required part of your apparel. And for our employees, this is a requirement to come to campus in the fall. And I've had a lot of questions that have emerged as I'm looking across multiple screens, and we may need to have another town hall around the preparations in advance of the fall. But I can tell you, as we are moving through this presentation, I have 3 lengthy approaches to masks. We have a policy that is proposed. We have a practice that is proposed. And we have recommendations that are proposed. The path that we take in terms of a policy, a mandate, a recommendation, in many respects is directly related to what is in place at the county level. We do expect all students to wear masks in class or across campus. We have ordered 10,000 masks for all of our students, customized ETSU masks, which will be here soon. And our expectation is that students, faculty, and staff will wear masks when they're on campus, unless they're in an office alone, such as I am presently. We will have masks available in the classroom in an event that a student comes to campus and forgot their mask. So that way, when a student comes into my classroom, I can say, Jane, I noticed you forgot your mask today. Here, please put the mask on. And it's my intent and hope that everyone will comply with the requirement to wear this. Because what is this? It's a sign of care. It's a sign of grace. It's a sign of others before self. I wear my mask to protect my son. I wear my mask to protect my mother. I wear my mask to protect my coworkers. And if this is a slight inconvenience for me that protects the health and welfare of those that I love, then I'm happy to be inconvenienced. A mask is not a political statement. A mask is something that we simply do to help others. And that's what we do. We help others. We help our neighbors. That's what we've done in Appalachia for generations. If a neighbor has a family member who passed away, what do? We take food over to the home. If someone lost their job or there's an illness, what do? We reach out and say, what can we do to help? And ladies and gentlemen, that's what this is. This is an effort on behalf of all of us to help. And if we can wear these and follow social distancing and the protocols that are outlined in the report from Dr. Linville's work group, then I feel fairly confident that we will be able to navigate the months that are in front of us. But if we do not move in this direction, then we're going to have some pretty interesting days ahead. I've had a question that has come in related to the new budget model. The question is there a plan to rethink the entire decentralized budget process? Want to note that we moved to a process of decentralized budgeting more than 3 years ago in response to questions that had emerged from across the campus about the need for our budget to be open, transparent, and inclusive. And by decentralizing budgets, putting budget decision-making at the dean's level closer to the faculty and staff, in many colleges, this has worked extremely well. In many colleges, it has fostered conversations around budgets, around expenditures, around priorities. But some colleges have had a more difficult time of this than others. We have stated all along that we would revisit the work of the decentralized budget process, and that visitation, that review, that analysis will be part of the work of 125 Chapter 2. I am not in a position at this point in time to back away from those principles of shared governance and ownership that were the driving forces behind moving to the decentralized budget. To centralize all decision-making, from my perspective, runs counter to the culture that we have worked hard to build at this university. So I know that some colleges have had to bear greater costs than others. That's one of the reasons why there is a $1.6 million recentering of the College of Arts and Sciences budget. Dr. Gordon Anderson, for several years, has advocated strongly the fact that arts and sciences bore a disproportionate weight of the transition to the decentralized budget because of the manner in which adjuncts had been handled historically at the institution. So I thank Dr. Anderson for his advocacy, and I want to thank all of the colleges for coming together, locking arms, and ensuring that we positioned available resources to the College of Arts and Sciences to meet the needs of students in that college. And as you all are well aware, that is the college that touches every student of this institution. That's the college that is the heart of the Gen Ed core. That is the college that is the home of the liberal arts. And an institution can only be as strong as it is in terms of the strength of its liberal arts programs. Programs such as music, sociology, political science, history, art, literature and languages, etc. So to faculty in those departments, you felt this sooner than your college and other colleges, particularly those colleges where the predominance of the instruction is at the graduate or professional level. The things that we're experiencing are not altogether because of the decentralized budget. When the state of Tennessee launched a free community college program that pushed students to take the first 2 years at the community college level, Who felt that first from a loss of credit hour production and a loss of students? Arts and sciences. As the state of Tennessee has emphasized an enhanced number of academic and dual enrollment opportunities for high school students, who felt that first? Our colleagues in arts and sciences. So some of the headwaters that we're working through are not altogether a function of the budget. They're a function of policy changes that have been felt in arts and sciences first. I've had a question that has come in around a follow-up to the early retirement opportunity. My question relates to those who are close to their current retirement age 55 within 3 years or so or more, who've been here for perhaps 20 years or more. At this juncture, I do not anticipate us expanding the early retirement incentive program. We will implement the program that is in place for staff, and then we will implement the program that we have in place for faculty. I do not anticipate a further expansion of the retirement program for the fall or for the spring. I have a number of questions that are now continuing to come into the stream of how are we going to execute all the things that we're going to execute in the fall. And as I was coming to work today, I was driving down West Walnut Street, and there's a wonderful billboard that showed a tunnel with light at the end of it. And the theme of the billboard was around hope. And that, for whatever reason, struck me today. And as I look towards the issues that are on our horizon and the horizon of anyone who's in education, I have a family member who's a K-12 educator in Greene County, and they're looking at returning to their classroom and welcoming their students. Educators all across America miss the things that we were trained to do. Our passion is to teach, to research, and to serve. We all want to have our students back on this campus. We all want to have the ability to share a cup of coffee, or in my case, a Diet Coke with a colleague, and talk about a research idea, or to take apart an article that we read and to really debate the meaning of that article. And I want that on this campus, just like all of you want to have the opportunity to be back on this campus. I assure you that we will move through this academic year, but we're going to have bumps in the road. There will be unforeseen circumstances that COVID throws at us that we're going to have to respond to. I know that I do not have the ability, in as much as I'd like to answer all of your questions. And I've said time and time and time again, I need your patience. This institution pivoted with grace in March. And if we have to pivot again at some point in the upcoming academic year, we will. But we're prepared. Our faculty are prepared because we've done it once. And I know that as we move into the fall, that whatever's thrown at us, we will respond accordingly. But we are taking all the preparations from a health and safety perspective to ensure that as our students, faculty, and staff return to campus in August, that we're putting their safety first. Jeremy Ross and his team, Bill Rasnick and others, Laura Bailey, are working around the clock to put in place safety protocols and procedures that will allow us to do the things that we want to do this fall. So I know that there are a diversity of questions around opening, and I'm not going to be able to get to all of them in the time that we have in front of us. I want to look back up to see if we have any other budget questions that have come in, because as I referenced, we will have another town hall as we get a little closer towards the end of this month, beginning of August, to address the questions around the fall. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's this changes quickly. And I'm sure that while we've been on this call, there have been institutions who are looking to change their approach for the fall. But as we move towards the fall, we are doing everything we can to position this campus to safely welcome our students, faculty, and staff back for the fall. I've had a question that has come in around a question on decentralized budgeting. Can the model be revised so that it doesn't pit colleges against one another as it does now? I am not of the opinion that the model pits college A against college B. I am of the opinion that we move to a decentralized budgeting process so that there would be more shared governance and ownership around budgets. And in many respects, you see a lot of interdisciplinary work emerging from the transition to a decentralized model. The Strong Brain Institute that I referenced prior is a research collaborative that is interdisciplinary in nature. Those faculty come from colleges such as medicine, education, public health, and arts and sciences. We've seen a number of interdisciplinary programs that have been developed since we transitioned to the decentralized model, and all of the colleges, the entire campus together, brought forward an opportunity to redirect $1.6 million to help support our colleagues in arts and sciences. So I know that there are questions around the budget model. As I referenced, as we move into the second phase of 125, we will put many of those questions on the table and strategically examine the budget model and the extent to which it is aligned with our strategic planning objectives and whether or not we need to make adjustments to those models. Have had a question from a staff member. Says, can you tell those who may be planning to retire if the budget will have changed that will impact their benefits, Medicaid, et cetera? This is a critical question. To whoever the staff member is, I would encourage you, because it just says staff member, please reach out to Lori Erickson and our staff and human resources. They are here to assist you in addressing these questions. Questions about retirements, questions about benefits, questions about Medicare, Medicaid. So if you have benefits questions that you're wrestling with as you're considering what's next for you and your family, please reach out to staff in HR and you'll see within the chat a link to HR has already been posted on the chat side here on the Zoom screen. Let me kind of drop back into a question on opening. So we've got, I'm trying to, they're coming in fast. I apologize. I'm doing my best here to keep up. So I've had a question that has come in around athletics. As detailed within the information that have provided, the athletic department will be taking a 5.3% reduction to their base. And I will work to provide a little bit of additional information around the levels that comprise the base support for the total budgets for athletics. But to be clear to the individuals, and we've had a number who have asked questions around athletics, athletics will be taking a 5.3% reduction to their base budget. And their base budget, in many respects, will be significantly influenced by external forces in a way that will be unique to this campus as we move through the upcoming academic year. Have had a question here around single occupancy dorms. To Ms. Sherry Cooper, who has a son who's attending ETSU. The question is, some campuses have gone to single occupancy dorms. How will ETSU plan to manage our on-campus housing? To Ms. Cooper, thank you for giving us your most cherished thing in your life, which is your son. We look forward to welcoming your son to campus and are, as I've referenced on a number of occasions, preparing for your son and thousands of other students to join our campus family in the fall. As we look at the question of occupancy, our faculty in medicine and public health have recommended that we stay with our typical double occupancy for roommates on campus. And we are following the recommendations of our medical faculty as it pertains to occupancy across the residence halls. As it relates to your question on Gilbert scholarships, we will continue to offer an and to support our Carter and Gilbert scholarships moving into the fall. And those Carter and Gilbert scholarships are not dependent upon students' residence either in our residence halls or if the student decided to take courses online and join us in the spring. Question here, is the current uptick in positive COVID cases in Washington, Sullivan, and Sevier counties causing concern related to the opening of campus sites? We continue to closely monitor the data that's coming in from all of the areas where we have academic operations, be they our facilities in Kingsport, at Allendale and downtown, our campus in Sevierville, the work that we do in Southwest Virginia, and our sites in Asheville. So as we continue to get closer to the fall, we'll continue to track those, working in conjunction with Public Health Department and the health professionals and the health team led by Dr. Bill Block. So we do not have a magic trip number because, as I was reminded this year, when we made the decision to pivot to 100% online, some were very vocal in their statements that we may have had a condition in Washington County that could be different than Sevier County. So we want to closely follow the guidance and recommendations from the report by Dr. Linville and his work group, and we'll continue to monitor circumstances and situations as we get closer to the fall. Have had a question around when will we be able to use the CPA? The CPA, as with a number of facilities on campus, is not open at the current moment. We are repositioning a lot of equipment in the CPA so that individuals who love that facility, I do as well, will be able to exercise in a socially distant manner. And as soon as that equipment is repositioned, then Dr. Sherlin and his staff at that time will make the recommendation to me around opening windows as well as maximum occupancy thresholds for the CPA. We will take to our Board of Trustees, and those board materials are already online, kind of a summary of a lot of our opening strategies for the respective aspects of the university. So would encourage you to see that board material and the agenda to get a high-level sense of our opening policies and protocols for the fall, which entail the operations of the library, the CPA, the CULP, et cetera. Have a question here around the testing and tracing program. Under the leadership of Dr. Block and the faculty in ETSU Health, we have thousands of tests that have been ordered and will be available. Our goal is to make tests available to any faculty, staff, or student who would like to be tested through one of our ETSU Health providers or through our student health clinic. And those protocols are detailed at a high level in the board materials that I referenced that are now online through the ETSU Board of Trustees website. If you click on the link for the July 17th agenda, you'll be able to reference those materials. I've got a question here. It says, I'm glad we have a mask policy. That said, contractors and visitors are not wearing masks. I have not seen that. I've walked campus, and the contract employees that I've had a chance to see working on buildings from Alexander Hall to Martin Hall to the Culp are all wearing masks. I will share this feedback with Mr. Ross and his staff to ensure that all of the individuals who are helping prepare campus for the fall are abiding by university policy. Got a question here. It says, is there a standard policy on personnel taking vacations? Different departments say self-quarantine, others say straight to work. Without knowing the details around that question, I can't answer. What I can say is please make decisions that are best for you and for your families and for your colleagues. And my colleagues are my family. I care deeply about the people that I work with. So I know at one point earlier this year, I was in Washington, D.C. for a series of meetings, and I quarantined and isolated for the better part of 2 weeks. In fact, I was not around my immediate family. So if you have been to a place where you know that there's a hotspot, if you've been to some of the beaches along the East Coast, make the decisions that are best for you, for your family, and for your coworkers. If you're not feeling well, do not come to work. Wear your face coverings. I've got to get into the habit of taking my temperature every day before I come to work. But please look out for your own health, for your own safety, and to make decisions that protect those who you love and those who you depend on. But at this juncture, we do not have a university policy around quarantine if you've been to location X or location Y. Much of that is being done in conjunction with your immediate supervisors. I had a question that comes in again: will masks actually be enforced for students or strongly suggested? As I referenced, I have 3 separate policies, protocols, and recommendations around masks. We've yet to finalize the decision that we will implement for the fall. At this juncture, we are requiring everyone on campus presently to wear masks. We will make masks available for students who come into the classroom who did not bring their mask. We are looking to incorporate some mask elements into our syllabi. But as we get a little bit closer towards the month of August, and I've had the chance to review those policies in greater detail, I'll be in a position to answer the question. Our focus for the past couple of weeks has been on budget. I want to be in a position to put the budget to bed and to then begin the next focus on ensuring all the things that we need to do to meet our teaching, research, and service mission. So I can't answer what is a constant stream of questions here around masks, but we will be in a position to provide some greater clarity in the weeks to come. Have had a question around, once again, masks. Have had a question about the work that we are doing as a campus to reflect upon priorities. The question that says, this crisis should be a moment of reflection on our priorities as an institution. What principles will govern the university's responses to budget shortfalls going forward? Will the university commit to chopping from the top if further cuts are required, say in spring of 2021? Our priorities for the institution are defined by our values, and our values indicate that people come first. And I hope we have demonstrated, not only during the spring, as well as into the summer, that we are doing everything we can as an institution to put our people first. We are doing everything we can to make budget decisions that allow us to protect the jobs for all of our benefits eligible full-time faculty and staff. And I can tell you that every day I come to work with the question, what can we do today to make decisions that protect our faculty and staff? And I know that if you look back at the things we have done since March, and we're to place our actions up against others across the region, across the nation, or across this state, I think we have demonstrated those values. We are not an institution that has put in place a furlough policy. We are not an institution that has put in place a reduction in force policy. You are not reading articles in the Johnson City Press about a 25% reduction in our instructional force. In fact, what you're seeing is an institution that has moved in a very different direction. And I get a lot of letters and emails. Most of the letters and emails that I come in are asking questions or providing suggestions for improvement. But occasionally I get an email that talks about the good work we've done. And I received a letter on July 10th from the spouse of an employee. And the letter reads as follows: Dr. Noland, I just wanted to say thanks for the unbelievable generosity and compassion that the university has displayed towards its workers during the recent pandemic. You've allowed faculty and staff to stay home without losing pay over the critical weeks, and that was beyond kind. What employer does that? And then, upon the employee's return, to have facilitated assistance with the months of health insurance supplement and an extra vacation day. Wow, incredible. We are fortunate to be part of an institution that treats faculty and staff like family members. To have shown such care for the health and safety of employees, as well as equal concerns for financial well-being, speaks volumes about leadership. There's a little bit more, and it says, we have a little toddler granddaughter who's gotten to spend some special days with her grandpa because of the generosity that you've shown to faculty and staff. That will be a priceless memory for which we will always be grateful. God bless you. So I read that as an example of what we have done. Many of you may have looked at your paycheck stubs in June and July and said, wait, something's wrong here. What that was an extra month of benefits that were accrued. I announced earlier in the summer an extra day of vacation for our staff for all the work that they've done as we move through the transition in the spring to online instruction and the prep work for the fall. Have we done everything perfectly? No. Have we made mistakes? Yes. Have I made mistakes? Yes. Will I continue to make mistakes? I'm human. Yes. But I know this much. I'm proud of the work we've done. We've got a lot of work to do in front of us. Will there be challenges on the horizon? Yes. But if we keep our values, so to this question on priorities, our values are people come first. And if there is an unforeseen crisis in the fall, and we have to make very difficult decisions, as I said prior, I assure you that the first person who will take a pay cut is myself, and I'll take more than anyone else. I'll then ask all the members of the senior leadership team to do likewise, and we'll move forward. But if you look at the decisions we've done, I hope it's clear that that's the values we've tried to lead by. When we provide salary enhancements to faculty and staff, and this year would have been the 8th time in 9 years were it not for COVID, we always put in a floor so that those who are on one end of the salary spectrum have a minimum level of floor. And we've, in many years, put in ceilings so that we push the bulk of our resources towards the middle. Those are my values. My values are those who have the most to give should do so in order to protect those who have the greatest needs. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at a 4.3% reduction on one side, a 5.3% reduction on the other side. I don't know about the financial circumstances of folks across the campus. There may be chairs who are administrators who would be in line for reductions, whose spouses may have lost their job, or their parents may have lost their job, or their children may have lost their job, and they're now having to support individuals who they didn't have to support in the past. So rather than pitting one faction of the campus against the other, saying I'm going to cut student affairs to protect grounds and custodial services, or I'm going to cut athletics to protect WJHL, what I'm asking us to do together, as we've done since we opened our doors in 1911, is to together roll up our sleeves and ensure that we do everything we can to protect all the members of the university community. So I hope I've addressed the question from an anonymous attendee that came in 11:37 around priorities. Question here that came in a little bit ago: have we considered closing off-campus sites to aid in budget issues? I don't intend to close our off-campus sites, because if you close a site, in many respects, you close access to members of community who depend upon those sites. And if you look at the communities where those sites exist, they've made significant investments in students who are at those locations. In Sevierville, for example, because of the visionary leadership of Mayor Walters and others, you have seen Sevierville step forward and say any student who graduates from a Sevier County high school, who then goes on to the Walter State campus in Sevier County can attend ETSU at Sevierville at no cost. So all of the tuition and fees for students at that campus are covered by the residents of that county. And in fact, that site is bursting at the seams. I want to thank Brady Husky and her staff for the leadership that they provide. If you look to Allendale and Kingsport and the long-standing commitment we've had across the upper regions of Northeast Tennessee, our sites there provide dual enrollment opportunities for single parents to take courses. The work that we're doing in Southwest Virginia and our social work programs there provide educational opportunities. So I don't want to close any aspect that provides access opportunity for students. So we're going to do everything we can for as long as we can to ensure that students all across the Appalachian Highlands have the ability to take and to attend classes here and to take and to attend classes in Southwest Virginia and upper Northeast Tennessee, in Sevierville, or all across the region. I know we only have a few minutes remaining, and I want to thank everyone who has sent in questions. The bulk of the questions now relate to pivot points, magic thresholds, masks, etc. We will hold another town hall late July, early August, in which we will focus on those questions. I hope I've addressed the bulk of the questions that have come in around the budget issues that are in front of the university. And I once again want to thank everyone for your commitment to the mission of this institution. This is an institution that is unique in American higher education. It's an institution that throughout its history has been able to navigate challenging headwinds. It's an institution that's firmly grounded in the values that define not only our region, but define who we are. Those are values that place our people first. Those are values of persistence, of perseverance. They're values in which we all together, if we roll up our sleeves, get to work, and look to the light at the end of the tunnel, are that are going to serve us well as we approach an academic year that is unlike no other. I'm excited to get to work with you. I'm excited to continue to do everything I can to the best of my ability to ensure that this institution, no matter what faces us, remains committed to that mission of serving the people of our region, committed to academic excellence, committed to academic integrity, committed to teaching, research, and service, but committed to one another. I wear this every day, and I wear this because I'm committed to the people I love, and I'm committed to those who I love at this university. I hope that you will join us for the meeting of our Board of Trustees tomorrow. I encourage you to look to those board materials. I thank you for all that you do for this university and for the people who call it home. Godspeed to each of you. Everyone be safe. Have a great day. Go Bucks.